You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, y'all? This is One Royal Way here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield, Jordan Foote, and Josh Keiser. Joining me as always, gentlemen, how we doing tonight?
Dandy. I'm good. I think dandy's a good word to use.
Hey, you know, our ball club has achieved 10 wins. So, hey, hang the banner, pop the streamers. We're having fun out here. Only lost a series at home to the worst team in baseball, which we know what the transitive property does to that statement. You know, we've talked about it a few times on the show. Like, this season went downhill so fast that it's like there's no reason to sulk and be upset about anything. It's just trying to find the silver linings where we can. And I think there has, even though the series this past weekend against Oakland was rough, you still got to win against Baltimore, who's probably the second or third best team in the American League. You beat the White Sox last night, who are probably a worse trade wreck than the Royals at this point. Is that fair to say?
Considering expectations, man, like they've got to be, right?
Yeah, so we're getting the wins where we can. We're seeing some good stuff while we can. But we can't thank Kansas City Strength and Conditioning enough for sponsoring this show. Day one supporter of One Royal Way here at KCSN. Be sure to check them out if you have a baseball or softball player in the area that needs a place to train. I don't have too many thoughts from what we saw this past week between Baltimore, Oakland, and the first game against Chicago. By the way, as of recording right now, the game on Tuesday has not started, so I don't have any takes on anything I've seen Tuesday night. The bottom line for me is that the offense looks like it has really found its footing. Not even looks like it has found its footing. All of the early season struggles, the hard hit balls that aren't falling, and the random shutouts and all, it seems like they're at least not going to happen as consistently anymore. It's a lot of young guys in the lineup, and they're all producing to their own, in their own way. Like and from even guys that were not expected a ton of, or like the offensive production was not a huge part of it. Freddie Fermin apparently is a power hitter, which he hit a couple of moon bombs this week.
Fountain power.
Yeah. I was there on Saturday night. I was like, what the heck was that? Like, I knew he tagged it, but I didn't think he got it out to the fountains. Michael Garcia has proved he's an everyday big leaguer, at least right now. Nick Prado's new approach clearly is working, and I'll talk about him more in a little bit after Josh and Jordan go, but Michael Massey has figured out that if you watch a few pitches, you can take a walk, which is a really nice thing for him. It's working out right now. Now, the pitching has to be able to catch back up, which that's a whole other issue. But seeing the offense come along, seeing runs come across, and it not being they got 2 in the first off of Ryan Yarbrough, game's over. Like, it kind of felt early on in the season. No lead, like, they're able to put together crooked numbers and keep the line moving. And it is a welcome sight, and it's something that we can, I think, hang our hat on for at least a while, and hopefully the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. I turned off multiple games last week in those 2 series just because it was like 8-2 early on in the game, and then I just kind of keep an eye on it as I'm doing other things, and to see them work their way back so many times, and at that point you'd like a win. It'd be great for momentum, great for the spirit of the fan base and everything, but the fact that they were able to work their way back into a ball game was huge to me. And maybe I'm just looking for things to be positive about, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to celebrate them when they actually do something good. And coming back, not getting defeated like the White Sox were when they were like still somewhat in the game last night, before the sixth inning, they completely came out flat whenever they even lost the lead. So it's just like, at least they're working their way back in the ball games. That's good to see. It does still sting a little bit that it was Baltimore, who is legitimately good. Last year they were contending, but they're still kind of in. I think in most of our fan base, they're like, they're the Orioles. We should be creaming them. They're one of the worst teams of baseball. It's no longer true.
Second best team in the American League right now.
Bingo. Yeah, Baltimore seems legit, and then Oakland is the worst case scenario. So I liken this to you're going back to your ex-girlfriend to ask her to go to prom with you back in the day, and she says no. So then you start looking around, it's like, oh, that girl's been interested in me in a long time. I'm going to go ask her. And then she turns you down too. That's what it felt like this weekend watching Royals baseball. It's like both of those should have been attainable. and yet they just knocked your day. So that's kind of what it felt like watching it until that White Sox game in my mind. I had a ball last night.
That might be the best analogy that I've heard on this podcast so far. It was well done. It was well done.
It was pretty good. And it shows how bad this team has been, that we're like, oh, they won, 2 out of 5 games, whatever it is. And you're like, oh man, that's progress. But like literally, and I went on radio earlier on Tuesday. We're recording this Tuesday night. And I was like, that is progress. Like, you can't keep looking at the record and say they're 10-24, they're this and that, or they're 15 games below 500. You can do that and say that you are where your record says you are, but you also have to look at an end point, a start point and an end point. And if this is a turning point for the month of May, and they finish having won 45% of their games for the month of May, or 50% of their games for the month of May, that is progress. It's not going to show on the record because they're still going to be a really bad team. They dug themselves into such a hole that it's going to be tough to see tangible record-wise results. Like, this is going to cost them, if they caught fire the rest of the way, probably still not going to win 75, 76, 77 games because of how bad they were to start the year. Conversely, they kind of sputter a little bit, you're going to look a lot worse than you actually were at the end of the year. Like, it's hard to say throw away a month of the season, but if they improve, you might be able to throw away a month of the season. So this is a team that had usual suspects. Salvador Perez stepped up in one of the games. Vinny Pasquantino stepped up in one of the games. Also, Hunter Dozier stepped up in one. Nick Prado stepped up in one.
Tweets.
MJ Melendez had a 4 RBI game along with Prado with 3 on Monday.
Bobby hit a moon bomb on Saturday.
Yeah, the offense is back. And earlier in the season, we kept saying, like, yes, there are a couple wonky numbers. Like, yes, they should be striking out less. They should be walking more. But, like, they're hitting the shit out of the ball. And now it's kind of turning into they're getting production from that. I think a guy like MJ Melendez is a really good example of that, like a microcosm of the whole team. We'll talk about Salvador Perez here in a little bit, but pitching-wise, they still need to improve quite a bit or sustain in very few aspects. Yeah, but offensively, things are looking better than they were before because now the results are starting to match up with the process a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, and we're seeing some of it with, like I mentioned, some of these younger hitters, and maybe guys that haven't established themselves fully yet.
Yeah,
I think Nick Prado is a perfect example of this, and I think we can pat ourselves on the back for saying when he comes in the lineup, like, it lengthens things, it gives another guy that's willing to take a walk, work a good count, and hits the ball hard. And since he's come up, it's been huge for this lineup. You can see how that you can have a really solid correlation between Prado and Garcia coming in the lineup and the offense starting to really spark and get going. I tweeted this out earlier today in case you didn't see it, but in 2022, Nick Prado was swinging 45% of the time, chasing out of the zone 31% of the time, making contact in the strike zone 78%, and swinging and missing in the strike zone, swinging strike rate of 15%. All of those numbers are really not good at all, and it's a microcosm of the really rough stretch he had for the most part last season. He comes in 23, 39% swing rate, a 22% chase rate out of the zone, a 91% zone contact rate, and then 12% swinging strike rate. Swinging less, chasing less, making more contact, and he's swinging and missing in the zone less. All good things, and showing, hey, if he can do it, we know other guys in this lineup can do it, and hitting is a contagious thing. So it is really good to see. And one more point, I'll try and be quick with it because I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch. With Jordan's got another show right after this. But it was interesting seeing the dichotomy between the Royals and the White Sox last night. Both teams that are not good and are way below expectation. The White Sox way more so, given they had playoff aspirations coming into the season. But it was interesting seeing the Royals were down. It was kind of back and forth. They get the lead, they give it right back, and it's like, okay, well, when are they going to figure it out? And then the 8th spot happens, and you could just see the White Sox just deflate, and they were done. And we haven't, despite all of the terrible results the Royals have had, we haven't really seen that. These guys have continued to battle, continued to fight, not give up at bats, not walk back to the dugout with some terrible body language like we saw Tim Anderson do yesterday. There was a weird, like Luis Robert had like a fly ball that he just biffed in the outfield. That was like, it's just little things like that this team is the White Sox are way too talented to do that they're doing because they're losing. And the Royals, who are one of the worst teams in baseball, are always fighting. They're always positive. I think it's a sign of really solid leadership between the coaching staff and in the clubhouse with the players, that everyone's pulling in the same direction. It would be very easy to look across the dugout, and you're not seeing that in Chicago. And in Kansas City, we're seeing that. Maybe that's a little homery, sunshine, bumper, whatever. But this team is 10-25, and everyone seems to have the same attitude. Everyone's pulling in the same direction. There is something to that. I don't know if it's necessarily going to equate to a lot of wins, but it is good to see. I think it's a sign of good things for the future of the organization to have that.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, like, it's always fun and always good to be able to go back and look at the processes that, especially in this lineup, like the hard hit rate, the expected batting average, the expected slug was all kind of there. And then you throw, I just found out today that they are 5th on the year in line drive percentage. So if you have a hard hit ball that is the line drive, you're most likely to get a hit in those scenarios. And if you can go and lean back on those, like, the processes were good, the results will come. If you have that kind of in the back of your mind, it's a little bit easier to kind of start pushing your way through slumps like this. I don't know, and I tweeted about this the other day, like, I could always see that working in the background with the offensive struggles. The pitching side on this, I don't know what to rest any kind of hope or faith into that. It looks like both the starters and the bullpen are doing what you kind of thought they were going to do. The starters are not striking dudes out. They're pitching to contact, but they're also walking dudes, whereas the bullpen is striking guys out, but they're also walking a lot of guys. So it's just like what we expected to happen with the starting rotation and with the bullpen is currently happening, and I just don't know where the hope is going to come from outside of maybe Daniel Lynch takes a step forward when he joins the club in a couple weeks. That's really, I don't know what else there is after that. Yep.
So we did have just a little transaction update. There was a minor trade that the Royals made. They traded for a reliever from the Phillies organization, James MacArthur. He's a double-A guy. He's a little older, 25 or 26. Not a ton of production. They traded Junior Marine, who is I think he's 17 or 18 years old. I think this is
19 now.
19 now. Okay. Yeah. I know when he came over to the States for the Complex League, he was that old. Yeah. But again, a young outfielder, traded him to the Phillies going back that way. They did put MacArthur on the 40-man, I believe, and to make room on the 40-man, Fernando Reyes was designated for assignment, and we haven't heard anything if he will accept the minor league assignment or if he'll clear waivers. A couple points here. One, this is an example of JJ being more transactional, because I don't think that the previous regime would have moved off of Fernando Reyes that quickly. It clearly wasn't working. They sent him down to AAA. Nothing has really improved there, and so it's like, hey, look, we gave it a chance. We thought maybe this would help, inject a little bit of power in the lineup. Really didn't work, and they're just cutting bait and moving on. I respect that move in that regard, because it's just not one that we would probably see. The Royals would hang on to him for way too long, like they've hung on to some other guys, either on current or previous rosters, for way too long. From the James MacArthur front, I don't know. Like, maybe it's maybe they see something. They clearly see something that they like, and they think they can tool and figure out. And maybe it speaks to some of the confidence that they feel based on the success that some of these minor league pitchers have started to have with this the new organizational philosophy on the pitching end. And maybe they're able to unlock something that Philly couldn't. It's a gamble, but it's not a huge gamble. Junior Marine is 19. It's a lottery ticket. Maybe he's Estuary Ruiz, or maybe he's nothing. we don't know. So that's why I don't think I'm that upset about it, because it's so, like, Marine is so far away from the big leagues that it's not like you're giving up a known commodity. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I don't have super high expectations for it, but hey, maybe they're able to figure something out.
Yeah, I think MacArthur, he had the 7.31 ERA in Philly's AAA affiliate. I think it was like 15, 16 innings this year. He has the fastball and curveball changeup mix. He's a 26-year-old, having good results against lefties this year. Last year it was about even. Didn't have very much success. Injuries also limited him. Like, they clearly see something in his profile that made them say, okay, well, let's see if we can't fix this guy, quote unquote, or bring out the best of him. And if you're going to trade Marine, like I get, yeah, he had a 120 weighted runs created plus. Yes, he's only 19 years old. Like, it's a double-edged sword, I think. On one hand, you're giving up on a young player that you don't know what he's going to be. But on the flip side, you don't know what he's going to be. And he could be a guy that never cracks that top prospect list. It is never a guy that you're banking on to do anything for the future. So I don't want to say it's a non-story, because it is. And I think the Franmil Reyes element is also worth bringing up. I don't think it's that big of a deal in terms of the trade. You're trading cash and a 19-year-old for a guy that probably won't pitch many big league innings. But I think you almost want to say the impact of MacArthur is more tangible, I think, or closer to the big league team, even though you don't know if it's going to be any good or not.
Mm-hmm. And to the point about Franmil not working out, I watched his first big game back in Omaha. He did homer, but it was Daniel Lynch's first rehab assignment there in Omaha. Came up with the bases loaded, and he did the exact same thing he was doing in Kansas City. Was struck out on 3 pitches. There was a high heater that he chased out of the zone for strike 3. And I was just like, man, it just doesn't look like anything's different. And then the DFA happened later that day, but it was just interesting timing. But you're going to have a hard time. You're going to be hard-pressed trying to find a trade that involves 3 players that are bigger than these 3 gentlemen that were involved in this trade. Peter Marin, he is 6'2", 240. MacArthur is 6'7", 230. And Franmil Reyes is no less than 7'5", and 355 pounds. So you're going to, through 3 individuals, very large people. But yeah, as far as MacArthur goes, he kind of has a ground ball repertoire, and he does not have the ground ball rate to go with it. There's the 42.9% ground ball rate there in AAA. Granted, it's his first taste of AAA. He has not seen AAA outside of this season, still only a 16 innings pitch sample size, but he's going to throw, in his last outing, he went 2 2/3, and went scoreless with 3 strikeouts. He threw a sinker 77% of the time, and the average exit velocity on that sinker was 93.8. So he was getting plenty squared up, and he got out of that appearance scoreless because his defense made some great plays. He got some luck on a ground rule double instead of the triple that it was probably going to be. So he did get a little bit lucky, and his ERA would have been way grosser. So the fact that he's lucky to have a 7.31 ERA is not nothing, but I agree. They traded for him for a reason. I would like to know what it is. I just personally, just for my own sanity's sake, it's got to be something. I have faith in it. What is it? Just let me know what it is. I hope they figure that out soon. And if they want to just call me personally, I would be perfectly fine with that to tell me.
Joel, do we want to hit injury real quick before we
really
hit a break?
The good news is Drew Waters is on his rehab assignment, so that is nice to see. Unfortunately, Kyle Isbell, who hit a suicide squeeze to take the lead, and then grade 2 hamstring strain. He's out for about 6 weeks. Just brutal, because he looked like he was starting to figure it out. So he started hitting the ball a little harder. Looked like he was really starting to come into his own a little bit. And then he's dashed for 6 weeks, and who knows how long a hamstring could take when he comes back. Is he willing to go and chase those balls down at full speed in center field? Like, it's not great. So we're seeing a lot of Jackie Bradley Jr. in center field. To his credit, 3 hits last night. So, good for him. I'd imagine that Drew Waters is going to come and take those plate appearances here pretty quickly. The other one, and this one just sucks. Jose Cuas is going back up from Omaha because Ryan Yarbrough took a line drive to the face. He had fractures in his, I don't know where it hit him, but it says head fractures. Not great. Oh my God. Like, those are the worst things to see because everyone has the same audible guttural reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the broadcast is trying to keep it together. It's just not what you want to see. Hopefully Ryan Yarbrough's healthy and good, because he was having one of his best outings in Kansas City on Sunday, and then takes a 106-mile-an-hour line drive to the forehead. So you hope that just beyond the physical aspect, the mental aspect of hopping back on the mound after something like that happens. Like, there are some guys that just can't hack it anymore after an injury like that, and for good reason. I mean, that's a horrible injury to have. thankfully, it could have been a lot worse. Like, he came out of it okay, all things considered. He was conscious the whole time. He was talking afterwards. That is comforting to know. You never want to see a guy have head fractures or facial fractures, whatever it was. So that's tough, and hopefully Ryan Yarbrough comes back, pretty soon. As soon as possible, whenever he's ready to go. Because I still think there's maybe something in the tank. I'm not sure what it is, but hopefully he's good.
Mm-hmm. He was released from the hospital, so that's good.
Yeah, that is a very good sign. He was released, I think, a day after, so that is good to hear.
One more thing I wanted to bring up real quick: the Daniel Lynch, he had a rehab outing. This Sunday, and they said that he's scheduled to have another one on Friday, but that could be subject to change with the injuries that the pitching staff is kind of coming through. It could absolutely see Daniel Lynch's next start be in Kansas City, because with as bad as its starting pitching has been, they've been kind of shuffling guys up and down I-29. So it's either pretty much the candidates are Maximo Castillo, that new MacArthur addition, or maybe you call up Alec Marsh or John Bolin from AA in order to start on Friday, or you can just have Daniel Lynch just go ahead and join the rotation. So I think with the fact that they can't bring those guys like the Heasley, Austin Cox duo, they can't bring those guys back unless there's some kind of injury. And Yarbrough has already been put on the IL with the corresponding move with Jose Cuas. So I don't think that they can do anything outside of Castillo, MacArthur, Marsh, or Bolin, or Daniel Lynch at that point. So their options are kind of limited, but I'm curious to kind of see what that could potentially mean. So the only other thing about that rehab outing at 3 1/3, no earned, 3 hits, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. He started out a lot with breaking balls and off-speed pitches, which I thought was interesting. His fastball velo was usually around that 91, 93 range, and then it kind of started ticking down there in the fourth. It was about 89, 90. So I think that's just him gearing up and starting to try to build up to that pitch count. That's what I'm hoping, at least. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. But Daniel Lynch is not long for Omaha, I don't believe.
No, I don't think so either. Hopefully, it's one of those things that I'd be okay with having him back, but I also am okay with the Royals taking their time on a shoulder injury and giving him the 3 or 4 innings in Omaha, give it another run through the rotation, and then come back and they think he's fully healthy rather than rushing him back. They have other arms they can go to if they really feel like they need it. We're going to do our hitter and pitcher spotlight of the week right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
What's up? We're back.
We are back. So let's do our hitter spotlight of the week. Salvador Perez went on an absolute heater this weekend, or this really from basically the Baltimore series through Oakland, and then he had a couple knocks last night as well. I think he hit like five. Was it 5 home runs? Because I know he had the multi-homer game. Yeah, it's not shocking because when Salvador Perez hits 1 homer, he hits like 6. It's just like he'll go 2 weeks without hitting a home run and they'll hit 7 in 4 games or whatever it is.
Usually it's in Minnesota.
Yeah, usually, yeah. What is nice to see, he's hitting the ball hard. He's still a mainstay in the middle lineup now. We know Salvador Perez, he's going to strike out. Or he's not going to, he's actually not striking out a ton this year, which is great to see. But he's still not going to walk because that's just what Salvador Perez does. Yeah. But it is a welcome sight to see him. And he's still tough as hell because he's taking a beating behind the plate a lot early on in the season. And he's still going out there every day because he had he hit a home run and then he took the foul tip off the glove hand.
Yeah.
Goes back up the next day and hits another home run because that's just what he does.
He's insane. I'm going to compare 3 stat lines. One of them is 2023, one of them is 2022, one of them is 2021. So 291, 343, 512 with a 127 weighted runs created plus. That is this season. 254, 292, 465 with a 108. That was last year still, respectable. 273, 316, 544 with a 126. That was 2021. So he's producing at the level he was in 2021. He's sacrificing a little bit of power, but getting some on-base ability. walking at a career high 5% clip. I've never seen a 5 before that with him.
No.
He's striking out 17.1% of the time. He hasn't done that since 2015.
Yeah.
His last 20 games, 342 batting average, 7% walk rate, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, and a 167 weighted runs created plus. Like, his launch angle is a career high. His pull percentage is the lowest it's been since 2012. He's hitting the ball to opposite field more than he has since his rookie year. The zone contact percentage is up. The whiff percentage is down. Like, this is maybe the most complete version of Salvador Perez we've seen. And like, yeah, it's buoyed by some recent stats. Like, it's going to level out, and I bet that those numbers will come down eventually. But he's been really, really freaking good. And like, the Royals need every bit of the production they're getting from him. I think him hopefully getting some rest throughout the season will help preserve that a little bit. Freddie Fermin being able to step in and seemingly do a decent job, I think helps that. Yeah, I think that helps quite a bit. And the defense seems improved too. So Salvador Perez, man, the ageless wonder just keeps getting better, if not sustaining what we saw 2 years ago. He's playing really good ball right now.
Yeah, I wasn't going to add much. I was just going to stress the 343 on base percentage. That is bonkers. He's only done that. He did his rookie year. He was like a 350 something, I think. 361 his rookie season. That was just 39 games in 2020. He's at 353 through just 37 games. And here we are through 33 games, and it was all the way up to 343. I was going to kind of also accentuate the 2 week span. We're kind of just adjusting filters here, but over the last 2 weeks, a 229 WRC plus, a 1259 OPS, 14.8% K rate. And boys, we've talked about that walk rate. His walk rate over the last 2 weeks is a 9.3% walk rate. That is something we have never seen, not even closely sniffed on Salvador Perez and his beautiful smelling perfume. Has never smelled like a 9.3% walk rate. And that is massive for this dude. Just the whole profile seems to completely change. And it's just awesome to see it as he get older. It kind of makes you more comfortable with carrying that $20 million salary. And not necessarily be like, well, what can you get for him? Or he needs to be gone. It's fun to live in the, we still love having Salvador Perez in this baseball team. So I'm really pumped that he's not only productive, but he's the heart of this team. So it's always good to see the team go as Salvi goes.
Steamer has him projected for another 23 home runs this season and 69 RBIs. The weighted runs created plus have it coming down to like a 107, which is, he was at 126 in 2021 when he hit 48. And Steamer is usually, like, I like using Steamer because it's generally a conservative estimate. Like 50th percentile outcomes usually. So that, I mean, if we're looking at a pretty conservative estimate of 30 home runs and 89 RBIs.
And he gets up to what, 112, 115? Like that plays, dude, for what, 34? Is he 34?
This is age 33.
Yes.
Okay. So he's old. Like, not to be that guy, but like, he's not young anymore.
Not at all. No, but he's
not 33 yet.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
His age 33 season.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Because I think he turns 33 before July 1st.
Okay.
Yep.
Like, that's what it has to be. Yep.
It's like a couple of
his
days, maybe.
Oh, his birthday.
5/10. Yeah, happy birthday, Salvi.
So as this is dropping, right?
Live lookups. Live lookups win again.
Perfect. Now to move on to our pitcher spotlight, we're going to talk about Josh Staumont tonight. 2 ERA in 9 games, 9 innings, 14 strikeouts, sub-1 whip. A bullpen that has been very up and down, but seems like they've found their footing over the last couple of games. Outside of, I think, one blip, and it was that weird wild game against wild day game against Baltimore. But I like what I'm seeing out of Staumont. He's willing to throw the curveball. The fastball isn't the 100-101 like it was on Give to the Big Leagues, but he's throwing 95 to 96, and it's actually over the strike zone right now, which for him, as JJ talked about with us before the season, the strike one was the most important thing for him. And right now, he's walking at 10.8%. It's still high, but it's around his career low. The strikeout rate is actually right now, in a small sample, the highest of his career. So it's almost like throwing the ball in the strike zone is good for Josh Staumont. And when you throw the fastball,
Novel concept.
what a novel concept. It is the simplest analysis, but damn it if it's not the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
And when he throws the fastball in strike zone consistently, it allows that absolute hammer of a curveball to play. And you saw that on Saturday when he came in. He got some ugly swings on it because he was getting ahead of hitters. And that's how you know, like, if he's going to be on. And for a team that is really looking for the bridge to Chapman and Barlow, like, who is it going to be? He is certainly becoming somebody that you can count on.
Mm-hmm. And I think like you said, the K percentage is about as best as his career. The walk percentage is about the best of his career. His expected batting average also, as well as the expected slug percentage on his pitches, are also career best so far. His whiff percentage is 31.5. So he's actually blowing, like, still getting pitches by guys, and that's still one of the best on this staff, no doubt. The other part about that is JJ talked about that split finger. He's only thrown one split finger this whole season. So me getting super excited about Josh Staumont split finger is kind of out the door, but there's just this meme where I'm looking at that split finger, but now he's got this slider, and he's loving that slider as well. And I'm also loving that slider because with Staumont, he's going to have the hammer curve. He's got the vertical rising four-seamer, and he has this split finger. But now he's got this slider that's going laterally. So it's not allowing guys to sit on vertical movement only. They can also have to now account for this horizontal movement that the slider kind of helps him play and mess with guys a little bit more. So I think that's a big credit to what he's done better. He's still, like you said, still pretty wild. The control still needs to be reined in a little bit. But as good as it's been, it's still very much serviceable. He's still a very good product there at the back of the bullpen. I still love me some Josh Staumont. So kudos to him. I look forward to seeing what else he's got in that repertoire at the end of the season.
Yeah, he's thrown the slider 16 times, 13 to righties. No one has hit off of it yet. Like, it's been unhittable, so to speak, so far. He's getting a little bit more vertical movement on the curveball this year, a little bit less horizontal movements. Like, he's tweaked it just enough, and it's gone from giving up a 345 batting average to yielding a 133-1 this year. And the sinker been a little bit less used, about 3.5% less, and it's yielding triple zeros. Like, he's going to, and I have to keep reiterating with these guys that are thriving, the numbers are going to go up. Like, I'd be surprised if he's like this dominant all season. The walks are something you always have to watch about him keeping in check, but like, he's fine-tuned just enough and introduced just enough and used it just enough that it's working. And I think that the pitch distribution, like the selection with him, that is something he can sustain throughout the year. Now, people are going to catch on to it. He's going to have to make some adjustments. I mean, you have a new feel for a pitch. That's a little bit tough to do in season, but this is good for him. And he's no longer this young buck prospect. The world's like, oh, well, we don't really know what we have in Josh Staumont. Like, this is a guy that he has to produce now, and he's doing the job so far.
Yeah, a huge credit to him, and hopefully he's able to sustain it and stay healthy, because that was his biggest bugaboo last year. Was he just like he'd have a couple of good outings and then he'd get hurt. So hopefully he's able to sustain that. We're gonna hit the minor leagues for the last bit of this show, so we'll do that right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
All right, so a couple guys we want to highlight that are down on the farm. Chandler Champlain, who was in the Andrew Benintendi trade last year, he was the Midwest League Pitcher of the Week. 6 innings, couple hits, a couple walks, 7 strikeouts, 28 strikeouts, 8 walks on the season, 3.38 ERA. He's 23 in high A, so a little old for the level. I don't think he will be long for high A. I imagine there's going to be some shuffling here pretty soon, and he's going to go to Northwest Arkansas. But I like what I'm seeing out of him. He's aggressive. He has solid stuff. I can see why the Royals liked him in that trade. And right now, he's pitching a heck of a lot better than Beck Way. And I thought it was kind of the other way around. Last year, Beck Way really struggled in Double-A, the other part of that trade. So that is really good to see from him. Josh, do you have anything on Frank Mazzucato, who just continues to carve dudes up in Low A?
Good God, that 42% K rate is sexy. I love Frank Mazzucato and the hammer he's throwing. It looked like there was been some metrics about his fastball that's very late movement on the back end of those fastball, which is huge. I mean, that's the difference between a very hittable 96 and a not hittable 93. So I love what I'm seeing. He's working in the top of the zone a lot, which really, really helps his, tunnel that curve to break back down into the zone. He got some really, really bad swings. We talked about Stammont's bad swings, but in his last start, he got some really super bad swings. He's still walking guys quite a bit. A 16.3% walk rate, not great, but even with that walk rate, his whip is still just 1.14. So what's your
walk weight in his whip?
His walk rate was 16.
There we go.
The walk weight.
You said the walk weight in his whip.
Well, guys, you got to walk this weight. Talk this weight. There's my Aerosmith plug. But the point remains, like, he's walking dudes, and the whip is still pretty damn good at 1.14. So give me Frankie Mazzucato. He's absolutely taking a step forward, and we could probably see him in Quad A's take over that Champlain spot here very shortly.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say. He needs to get promoted. It's over. I don't want to say overdue, but like it's pretty close to overdue. He's ready.
The fact that he's able, even though the walk rate may be high-ish compared to where it probably needs to be for him, the fact that he's striking out 12% more batters makes it a lot more palatable to see that walk rate because he's striking dudes out and looks, just confident as all hell on the mound. Like, there is a certain presence that he carries because he knows he probably has the best pitch in the Sally with that curveball. That he gets to 2 strikes and it's just good luck, dude. And then he throws you a curveball 1-1 and you're down 1-2, and then he throws a fastball at the top of the zone. Good luck.
Hashtag buy you.
By you. Exactly.
Shout out to Uncle Hood.
And what is comforting, and notice how this is something we did not talk a ton about last year, was the pitchers at any minor league level. And when we did talk about them, it was, what the heck is going on? This is why I have a little bit of hope for the future, and why, as frustrating as it is to watch the big league level and what's going on there, you see the fruit of some of this really start to come up with the minor league guys. Because the game planning is essentially the same across the system now. They're trying to have some sort of uniformity there. It may not be working at the big league level, but that could mean, at least maybe right now, it's more of a talent issue than a coaching issue. Because really the coaching is working for these young guys in the minor league level. They're able to mold a little bit more. So as these guys start to come up, I think we're going to start to see some more success. It's obviously not going to be immediate because a lot of these guys are low A, high A, or they're really young in double A outside of Alec Marsh or Bolin. And, those guys will come up and maybe we start to see the results of it happening at the big league level a lot sooner. But it is nice to see that the pitching is what's driving a lot of these guys. We already knew they could develop hitters. But now it seems like they're able to start developing pitchers. Maybe a little bit of a slow burn, but it's really good to see.
And it shows that the shelves aren't as barren as it kind of been portrayed by certain websites around the baseball community. We've been kind of saying that we've been saying that this prospect, this farm system is not as, the ceiling's not as high as you'd maybe want it, but it is deep in talent that could actually produce on the major league level. So it's kind of good to see the guys that should be stepping up, and the guys that you didn't really expect as much from, they're stepping up. Like Noah Cameron's is massive. Is a massive one that stands out. But you don't really expect some of those guys to become quality major league pitchers, and then they start to prove you wrong as they go. Cough, Vinny Pasquantino is kind of the same career on that front. But it's just good to see that the shelves are not as barren as they were kind of depicted to be.
Joel?
I got one more guy here. Sorry, I looked up the wrong person because I was looking at, I mentioned Anthony Veneziano. He threw another 6 performance this week. 37 strikeouts to 3 walks. That is fantastic.
That plays.
That
plays no matter where
will
you're at.
100% play, and he's throwing harder than he did last year.
Yep.
He was weirdly like 90 to 93, and now he's back up around 95, 96.
Yeah, but
that is good to see. The other guy we wanted to bring up tonight was Nick Lofgren in AAA. Had a weird start to the year, but it seems like he's started to get things figured out over the last week or so, hitting 400 on base around I shortchanged him, hitting 450, 500 on base, 850 slug, couple home runs. Seems like he's starting to kind of find it. He's not walking hardly at all, which I want to see that come up a little bit because I don't think we want another like Michael Massey type situation where he's trying to hit his way on all the time. And now you start to see Michael Massey's actually started taking walks and the plate appearances look better. Almost like there's a correlation there. So once he starts to, if he starts to figure that part of it out, he's going to be up in the big leagues at some point this season. And another versatile piece in there, like play third, play the outfield, and hit for some pop. I mean, he's really started to come into his own there, which is really good to see. Then the overall numbers on the year are not great. Hopefully he's able to turn this week into another good week.
Josh, you got anything on him?
I was just going to say that I think we're used to seeing him walking more and running more, and he's not doing either one of those. He's also not striking out as much anymore. His slug is weighed up, and I'd like to see his line drive percentage increase. But I think, boys, what we're seeing here is we're seeing Nick Lofton transform into Thick Lofton.
I don't know what to say to that. Technically, you're probably right because he came into the spring. I'd assume he's maintained, so he might be Thick Lofton now.
Yep. We're just going to go with that. I think he's Thick Lofton now. He's more of a power hitter. I don't know. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Alex Bregman when he was coming up. He kind of came in as a shortstop and he thickened up and became like a undersized third baseman, if you will. That was still very much a power source with the bat, especially with that dumb left field wall there in Houston. But he's legitimate bat. I would love to see a Thick Lofton become Bregman. As far-fetched as that's like a 90th percentile probably. Sure. But it would be cool to see Thick Lofton up on the major league level, contributing and maybe potentially winning that everyday third base job at some point.
He's slugging 488 in his last 10 games, and the weighted runs created plus is 97, and he's walking 2% of the time, but he's also striking out 13% of the time.
Yep.
It's like I think he is finally he's realizing what all he can do, and like he's shown everything in bits and pieces, and like the next evolution for him is going to be putting it all together, which like it's easy for me to say as I sit here and don't have any of those pieces to put together, but like if he does, he has the ceiling of a really impactful player. So Thick Lofton definitely on my radar as well.
And on that note, we thank everybody so much for tuning into this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the audio side, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast, KCSN Kansas City Royals. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube as well. We are consistently getting more viewers than we have subscribers. So that means some of you guys need to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notification bells so you know when our next episode goes live. You can see Josh and Jordan's beautiful face, me and my Pablo Sanchez shirt. So we will talk to you guys next week, and take care.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.